Not only a tribute to the rules makers, but also a tribute to the men who drive those 250-mile-an-hour funny cars. One of the most popular of all drag racing categories is Pro Stock, the factory hot rod.
And this is the semifinals. In the near lane, the famed Grumpy's Toy, a Bill Grumpy Jenkins from Pennsylvania with Joe Lapone driving. Lapone, an athletic, tall, good-looking young guy who announced today he is retiring from this car. No further news on his plans for the future. Lee Shepherd, the world champion. He won it earlier when Frank Iaconio went out in the first round of competition. That will be the second consecutive world championship for the rear end. Morrison Camaro. What a matchup of beautiful Camaro automobiles, Dave McClellan.
Certainly is, and this could be called the Battle of the Makes, this entire Pro Stock category. Here we have a pair of Chevrolets, Lapone and Bill Jenkins' car, but it's Lee Shepherd pulling out the win by about a fender length at the finish line. Lee Shepherd recording an elapsed time of 7:69 at over 177 miles an hour, and bear in mind they're running on carburetors and gasoline.
2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches maximum. The beautiful new Hurst Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson. Warren won the event title here a year ago in a different model of an Oldsmobile. This car that appears to be very bulky actually is very quick. Bob Glidden, what can you say? The 5-time world champion, the 83 Ford Thunderbird that finally has a new aftermarket aluminum motor in it. They were handicapped with almost a 20-year-old power plant the first part of the season. They've got it worked out now. This should be quite a race. Oldsmobile versus Ford. They bring these RPMs up to almost 9,000, Dave.
And you can hear him climb to the moon, and it is Warren Johnson with the hole shot. And I don't think anybody expected that, because Bob Glidden has been improving all season long, and at the finish line, that advantage pays off, and Warren Johnson wins it.
Oh, Warren Johnson, what a driving job. 771 at 178 miles an hour. As we look at it again, you see Warren react first. Glidden's car goes much higher in the air than he would have liked. Glidden still, however, ran a quicker elapsed time at 7.66 seconds, 180 miles an hour. So 500ths difference in the elapsed time. The slower of the two cars wins it. Here in the near lane, they don't get much closer than this.
That sets up an Oldsmobile versus Chevrolet final as the two wives, Warren Johnson's wife and Etta Glidden, Bob Glidden's wife, arm in arm as they go off the racetrack, and the bodies come down on our funny cars as we get set to go into the semifinal round of competition.
It'll be John Brute Force in the Tower Lane, a native Californian, a former truck driver who about 10 years ago decided he wanted to make his living in this sport, and it has been not easy for John. He has really struggled, gone through an awful lot of equipment. A good businessman, as you can see by all of the logos and sponsors on his race car, and he's finally got the performance to back it all up.
He'll need it because he has to race the #1 qualifier, the 4-time Winston World Champion in the Pepsi Challenger, Don the Snake Prudhomme.
Prudhomme is only...
and Don's got something coming out of the car. You can see there is fluid, liquid of all types coming out. He quickly shuts it off, and the car is on fire. It is the nitromethane fuel, apparently a fuel line split. Prudhomme comes out of the car, crawls away on his hands and knees, and Bob Brandt, his crew chief, quickly hitting it with a fire extinguisher. They back the car up, and no damage to either the car or Don Prudhomme, but what a break for John Force.
Oh, John Force in the far lane will waltz his way into the final round. And Force smokes the tires. It's a good thing he had no opponent, David. He'd have been in real trouble. He'd have probably been defeated.
He'd have been watching Don Prudhomme streaking away in that Pepsi Challenger, but instead Don Prudhomme being pushed back to the pits, the fuel line letting go, and a dejected driver is the man who watched the body come up, and he exited quickly as the fuel started pouring out, hitting the red-hot headers and bursting into flames as Prudhomme himself shuts the engine off and immediately exits the car.
And the first to react here is his crew chief, Bob Brandt, who knows that there is always a fire extinguisher sitting right on that starting line. The emergency trucks, the way they are placed, it would have taken them another 20 or 30 seconds to get here, and by that time there might have been an inferno had Bob Brandt not reacted so quickly.
The remaining pair in the semifinal round, Denny Savage at the wheel of the Custom Body Enterprises car of Fred Castronova. As we've told you, Savage in this car for the first time driving this race.
And little John Lombardo has an opportunity here to make his first ever final round. He qualified #1 at the Southern Nationals earlier this year, but has never made it as far as the finals. Little John Lombardo is away first. Savage pulls up even. It is gonna be little John Lombardo by a little over a car length. Pat Galvin celebrating, the crew chief along with Donnie Couch as they head for the truck. Little John from North Hollywood makes his first final.
A fine time for Little John Lombardo at 5.90. He figured out what has become a relatively tricky racetrack. Earlier today, Steve had a chance to visit Shirley Muldowney in her pit area.
As these top fuel dragsters have become more sophisticated, their crews have become more specialized. In the case of Shirley Muldowney's team, it is Ron Tobler who makes the major decisions as far as tuning the car is concerned, but he still has to get deep into the toolbox. He is ably assisted by Shirley's son, John Muldowney, who generally is responsible for the clutch in the automobile, a very important component. Other crew members will do the diving, as they call it, going underneath, taking off the oil pan, checking the bearing and the crankshafts. Ron has also got to be a little bit weatherman and keep an eye on the air density and the temperature and the actual altitude as indicated by his gauges, because all that affects his tuning of the race car.
Shirley Muldowney now in the semifinal round of Top Fuel to be racing Richard Tharp.
Shirley's performance today particularly impressive when you consider what happened to her at this year's U.S. Nationals on a qualifying run. The wheel came off the car, the left front wheel, and she made serious contact with the guardrail, bouncing to a stop. Shirley was unhurt, but the race car took a vicious blow. So the car she is driving today is the same machine that carried her to the 1982 World Championship. It came out of mothballs. They put a new wing on it with the #1, and here they are in the semifinals against Richard Tharp.
Steve, this is quite a personality battle, too. Not only is it who's got the better car, but who is the better driver.
Richard Tharp's car a little lazy off the starting line. Shirley Muldowney comes out of the tire smoke quickly. Shirley Muldowney goes into the finals at a 5.88 at 240 miles an hour.
Steve, that was one tremendous driving job by Shirley Muldowney, as she has now earned her way to the finals of this Winston World Championship. Let's watch. Richard Tharp just a little slow off the starting line. Then here comes the smoke, and that indicates the tires are loose. They have broken traction. She's spinning them, but she recovers quickly and easily pulls ahead to defeat Tharp.
And this is the first time that Shirley Muldowney has driven what they call a Crower glide type of clutch. She's had a pedal clutch, or she calls it a stick shift, all season long. So what a tribute to this young lady to adapt that quickly to a new mechanical combination. Who is Shirley going to race in the final? Will it be the man in the near lane, Joe Amato, who has won 3 races this year? Or will it be Gene Snow, who is yet to win his first Top Fuel title after the funny car glory he enjoyed a decade ago?
Gene Snow dropped out of drag racing for several years and formed a company, and you see it proudly displayed on the side of that black gold entry, and it's called Snow Oil Company. That may well be why he doesn't go out and look for other sponsors. For Joe Amato, he is sponsored by Hearst and his own Performance Warehouse Distribution Company, Keystone Automotive. Joe Amato and Gene Snow as we get set for the final round of semifinal action. One of the two will advance to meet Shirley.
What a contrast in personalities. The soft-spoken, slow-walking Texan Gene Snow. And Joe Amato, very animated, talks with his hands. There's no punctuation in his sentences. The one thing they have in common, they're very well-liked and respected in this sport. Two other real good guys.
And they are both very exceptional race car drivers.
Now, Amato has had the consistency mechanically all year long. Has not been first off the mark very often, but has never red-lighted either. Gene Snow, reaction's good. Motor has been a problem.
The green light comes on for both cars, and Joe Amato pulls to an early lead. And he continues to extend it through the finish line, and Joe Amato wins to earn his right in the finals, 5.70 seconds to a losing 5.85 for Gene Snow. So it'll be Joe Amato, as we see here in the near lane, defeating Gene Snow in this semifinal round.
And Dave Watcher, he will smoke the tires almost exactly where Shirley Muldowney did. But Joe Amato backpedaled as Shirley did, got the traction again, and defeats Gene Snow.
And Joe Amato gets the lane choice with a 5.70 elapsed time here, defeating Gene Snow. Shirley's best in the semis, a 5.88.
And back in the pit area, Shirley Muldowney's crew is thrashing, and they tell me they have decided to change transmissions in this car, to go to a lower gear ratio transmission. In fact, they're borrowing one from Dwight Salisbury to try to prevent that smoking the tires in the final round. Little bit of a gamble here, David.
You can see, Steve, all of the work that goes on. Literally, they disassemble the engine, practically the entire drivetrain if need be, and put it all back together in roughly an hour and a half.